Donald Trump's allies vowed a campaign of shock and awe as soon as he returned to the Oval Office. And in just a matter of days, he has already followed through on that chaotic promise. In a late-night purge, Trump fired more than a dozen inspectors general in the federal government across multiple departments. A Trump official said the move was an effort by the president to let go of parts of the Biden administration that don't align with the new administration, whatever that means. One of those fired inspectors general was Mark Lee Greenblatt, who served as the Interior Department's inspector general. Here's what he told my colleague Yamiche Alcindor just earlier today.
Well, it was a mix of emotions, frankly. It was everything from disappointment to sadness. The key question here is who does the president appoint in the place of the IGs that he's removed? We are we're so-called watchdogs inside the federal agency. So does he appoint true watchdogs or does he appoint lapdogs?
Now, the firings came hours after Trump's defense secretary nominee, former Fox Weekend host Pete Hegseth, was narrowly confirmed in the Senate after his nomination was nearly derailed by scandals, including allegations, of course, of sexual assault, which he had denied. It was only the second time in U.S. history that a vice president was required to break a tie for a cabinet-level nominee. Hegseth's confirmation was aided in part by the influential conservative think tank, the Heritage Foundation, which, of course, pressured GOP senators to get him over the finish line. Trump's pick to head the Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, was also confirmed today in the Senate. Noem has been a vocal supporter of Trump's most hardline immigration policies, and that, of course, includes birthright citizenship, which the president has attempted to end through executive action. Just a matter of days, Trump has pumped out more than 50 executive orders, many of which seem straight out of a conservative blueprint we've long been warning about on this show, the Heritage Foundation's dystopian Project 2025. Now, according to a new analysis from Time, nearly two-thirds of the executive actions Trump has issued so far actually mirror or partially mirror proposals from the 900-page document ranging from sweeping deregulation measures to aggressive immigration reform. Trump's order suspending the U.S. refugee admissions program, it aligns with Project 2025's recommendation for an indefinite curtailment of refugee admissions. Trump's decision to pull the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Agreement, well, yep, that one also follows a proposal in the conservative document that called for shutting down the agency's offices, programs, and directives designed to advance the Paris Climate Agreement. And then there was Trump's decision to reverse former President Biden's executive order that would allow transgender people to serve in the military. You see where I'm going with this? It's also in Project 2025. And this influence isn't just limited to executive orders. No. In fact, yesterday, Trump repeatedly proposed getting rid of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or as we know it, FEMA, saying disaster relief should be left up to the states while we are in the middle of multiple natural disasters. Now, Project 2025 has also called for reforming FEMA spending by shifting the majority of preparedness and response costs to states and localities instead of the federal government. 1 week in, Donald Trump isn't hiding it anymore. This is officially the Project 2025 presidency. And now that he's in the White House, he doesn't care who knows. Remember on the campaign trail, he said he'd never heard about it, didn't know anything about it? Well, now the question is, what are the Democrats going to do about it? Let's bring in my panel. Joining me now is Jennifer Horn, former New Hampshire Republican Party chair and host of the Is It Just Me or Have We All Lost Our Minds podcast, and Basil Smikle, MSNBC political analyst and professor of practice at Columbia University. It's great to have both of you with us. Jennifer, I'll start with this very troubling late-night purge last night. Let me play for you and our viewers what the Minority Leader Chuck Schumer just said about this earlier. Watch.
Donald Trump's decision to fire 12 of the federal government's independent watchdogs is a glaring sign that it's a golden age for abuse in government and even corruption. When government agencies disobey the law in the next year, and there's no independent IG to keep them in check, Donald Trump could well regret this action.
Basil, why? Jennifer, give me your thoughts on that reaction first, and I'll get Basil's thoughts on it as well. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Well, I think that Chuck Schumer made a really important point there. Probably the most important point about all of this is that these are people who are, these are positions that serve to provide oversight as watchdogs. One of your earlier clips talked about Trump wants to install lapdogs, not watchdogs. So the folks that he's purging are kind of the eyes and ears for the American people in government, making sure that, to oversee that whether it's corruption, waste, abuse, all of any kind. However, this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. He's essentially he's, as always, exactly what he said he was going to do. This is the Project 2025 Donald Trump administration. And what we have seen in this insane pace of destructive executive orders over this first week, we need to brace ourselves. This is only the beginning. This is just the cornerstone of what the real corruption and destruction is going to be over the next 4 years.
So, Basil, give it to me from a Democratic strategist point of view. The question that I was posing more broadly here: what can Democrats realistically do as they see this influx of action that is beginning to effectively curtail our democracy and maybe kind of begin to break it up a little bit?
Yeah, for a period of time after the election, folks were saying that Democrats were in a bit of a malaise, which I never believed and never sort of understood. What Democrats are is looking hyper-local. There's a macro and there's a micro sort of pushback and resistance in the 2.0. The macro is a lot of what you'll see in D.C. It is Chuck Schumer speaking on it in the ways that he has. It's Democrats trying to determine, given the fact that we don't seem to have checks and balances in our system right now, what can we do in the House and the Senate to be able to at least, kind of fill those voids, plug some of those holes, so at least there's enough pushback to, so that things just don't happen sort of automatically in the way Trump wants it to. But then there's a micro. It's what happens when Democrats go hyper-local. And I talk about this all the time. Most people, the policy that affects most people's lives occurs at the state and local level. If the pushback, if the resistance, if you will, is making sure that someone like Attorney General Tish James or the secretaries of state that are elected across the country, that they can stay in those seats and offer that kind of resistance, even locally, all of that really helps, but that work needs to be happening right now as we start to get into the midterms in a relatively short period of time.
Yeah,
I think it's a macro and a micro kind of approach.
I think we're at the moment, and we're already 1 week in, where we have to break the glass in case of an emergency. Those things that you see on the train when you have the handle, and it's like you gotta start doing something. I mean, I know we're a week in, but this is exactly what Trump wanted to do, which is like flood the zone, create the chaos, and overwhelm the system in so many different ways that those who are trying to fight back are almost paralyzed, because where and when and how to fight back now becomes the challenge. Jennifer, you had the head of the Council of the Inspectors General on Integrity and Efficiency releasing a statement saying that the removals are a significant threat to the actual and perceived independence of IGs. Some fired watchdogs now say that anyone put in these positions in the future will automatically, no matter who it is, will be viewed as a loyalist.
Yeah, and that's extremely dangerous. And it's dangerous. Basil's talking about the micro macro level on a different, from a little different perspective. This is extremely dangerous when you look at it from the macro level, the highest level of what the impact could be. This is going to have an impact not just on individual policies in the next 2 years or 4 years. It's going to have a long-lasting impact on the trustworthiness of democracy, the trustworthiness of any elected leader going forward, Republican or Democrat. And, and we could talk about the specifics of what this means in this moment and specific policies and specific issues. But what really, I think, surprises me to a small degree with Trump and his MAGA guys is that they're so short-sighted on this. What do they think is going to happen the next time the Democrats are in charge, the next time there is a Democratic president in the White House? It's so short-sighted for them politically that I'm almost shocked, except that everything about MAGA is so short-sighted. But from the point of the American people, it is a significant threat to how our government works, the stability and the ethical running of government in our country.
Basil, you and I are old enough to remember that on the campaign trail, President Trump denied and lied about knowing anything to do with Project 2025. Time, that piece that I was referencing, the Time magazine article that I was referencing, says that 2/3 of Trump's executive actions now mirror those of Project 2025. You had a White House spokesperson responding to that article saying Trump had nothing to do with Project 2025. We knew we were being gaslit at the time that he was saying it, when we saw the people who were involved in Project 2025 just kind of hovering around the campaign. Is there anyone in this country now that has doubt that this had always been the plan?
They shouldn't have any doubt. I mean, to Jennifer's point earlier, when someone tells you who they are, believe them. And in this case, there's no reason not to believe that every aspect of that 22-page document there's intentionality around implementing it. People paid for it. They sponsored it. If you look at the document, look at all those organizations that sort of put their imprimatur on it. Now, there is a real effort to make sure that that comes to fruition. And there is an important point embedded in that. The point that Donald Trump's going to throw a lot of his decision making, a lot of stuff against the wall to make people react, because kind of the chaos is the currency there, right? But then there is the other stuff that happens beneath that, the sort of submerged policymaking that might not be for public consumption, but is still going to exist. And that's why one of the ways in which Democrats can really, push back on this is to keep the country really informed at the little movements, the small things. What RFPs are going out there that people are going to try to apply for to be able to do locally? What is the head of OMB doing? Like, what are the, all of those positions that we may not think of because they're not sort of sexy and don't get a lot of press, but all of those little things that government does that are submerged really need to start coming to light. That's one thing that Democrats could really do.